Hi, my name is Caitlin. I'm a bookaholic, and today I'm going to be doing my first booktube video, and that is a book haul. In the month of February, I did go a little crazy. I got a bunch of books. I'm not sorry about any of them, and I'm pretty stoked about all of them, so we should probably get to it. So starting off, the reason I went so crazy and bought so many books the month of February is because in January I put myself on a money spending and book buying ban. I didn't buy any books, and in the whole month of January I spent $5. So I kind of undid all my success the day that February hit. So I'm going to take you through it. The first thing I did is, obviously, since I was on a book buying ban, I tortured myself by constantly perusing the shelves of bookoutlet.com. So I had a full cart well before January ended, and a big box of books came. The first book I got off of Book Outlet is Into the Darkest Corner by Elizabeth Haynes. It's a novel about a girl who basically she meets her dream guy. He's handsome, he's wealthy, he's so devoted to her, everything's perfect. She finds herself in an abusive relationship. The worst part is her friends, they don't even believe her. And basically the man, her husband, I think at that point, ends up in jail, and she finally is moving on. She meets a new great man and things are going well. And then the phone rings. And I'm really excited about this because one of the ways it was described in the Goodreads reviews that I read online is that basically it's a realistic response to all of those people who are so obsessed and are saying, oh yeah, that's my dream relationship, when they read Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire, because those relationships are glorified and this is generally the actual fact of that situation. So the next book I got this month from Book Outlet is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. It is a book about a girl, or a woman, I guess, who is a workaholic. You know, she doesn't spend time with her family and she's having marital problems. And then the holidays rolled around and her husband's like, well, we're going away for the holidays, we're going to go spend time with my parents. And she's like, but I have to work. Well, she comes home and her husband's taking the kids to his parents like he said. So she tries to call him on the landline, only when she gets a hold of him, it's not the present day him, it's the younger him from the past when they were dating. And so she kind of talks to him, tries to figure out how to fix their marriage, or even if she should. And honestly, I'm really excited about this. I've heard great things about it. I've only read one Rainbow Rowell book. It was Eleanor and Park, and I loved it. Like, the next book I got from Book Outlet is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Grisha trilogy. I read the first one, Shadow and Bone, in the month of January. And I liked it. I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. You know, it was an entertaining read, but it lacked any real depth, and I felt like the relationships were developed, and I didn't really understand the motivations and stuff, but that's a different conversation. Basically, it's just not to spoil it, but to give you an idea what the series is about. It's a stereotypical YA kind of like fantasy dystopia. It's about a girl who's nothing special. She's kind of scrawny, awkward looking. She's an orphan, of course. She discovers on accident that she has this rare magical ability that no one knew she had, and only she can really save their world and end this evil that's there. So I'm interested to get to this one. I want to know what happens in the rest of the series, and since my local libraries don't have it, I decided to pick it up for cheap on Book Outlet. And the final book I got off of that Book Outlet order is going to help me to fulfill one of my 2015 New Year's resolutions, and that resolution is to restart and finish Cassandra Clare's books. It's this guy, City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare, the final book in her Mortal Instruments series. And it's huge. It's way bigger than I thought it would be. Like, look at this. It's bigger than my head. Like, if people broke into my house with guns, I could just hide behind this book and I'd be fine. Like, either they wouldn't see me, or if they did, they could shoot me in the head and it wouldn't ever get to me. Well, basically, I'm sure everybody has heard of the Mortal Instruments at this point. If not, well, give it a chance. Like, it's about a girl named Clary who basically discovers that she's secretly part of this underground world of demon hunters when she didn't even know demons existed. And I'm really excited to get to it. I haven't finished her books because I read the first 3 in the Mortal Instruments when it was just going to be a trilogy, and then when she announced, oh, there's going to be more books, I was excited. But after reading City of Glass, the next book was really disappointing. I didn't like it, especially since I hate cheating, and the beginning of that book, all it seemed to be about was Simon cheating on Maya and Isabel, and I didn't like that. Like, that bothers me, but I've heard that they're still really good, so I'm going to give it another chance. I'm going to start over, and hopefully I can get past Simon being stupid, as always, and get to this, and I hope I enjoy it as much as everybody else is, because that would really break my heart if not. So this is my book outlet haul, part 1. So then what happened next, unfortunately, was that during the month of January, when I was obsessively stalking Book Outlet, they kept getting all these really awesome popular books that I've been dying to read. But by the time my book buying ban was over, they'd sold out of all of them. So I had no option but to go out to Amazon.com. Like, what was I supposed to do? So I went. The first book I got from Amazon is Lux Consequences by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'm sure most of you have heard of this series. It's about a girl named Katie. She's a book blogger, and she and her mom moved to this new town, and once she's there, she realizes, hey, my neighbors are friggin' aliens, and then she gets dragged into like this inter-alien war, and it's just crazy, and it's actually really entertaining. So since I read the first bind up by Entangled Teen, which is Lux Beginnings, I decided to go ahead and pick this one up because I can't wait to find out what happens next. The next book I picked up was Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. It's about a young princess who has an arranged marriage, but the night before her wedding, she decides that she's going to run away. And so she does, because this isn't how she wants her life to be. So she goes to a nearby town and gets a job as I'm trying to say bar wench, but that's not right. That's like a hooker, isn't it? So she's not a bar wench, assumably. Back never said anything about her becoming a hooker. A barmaid. She gets a job as a barmaid, and everything's going well. She's really enjoying life until these 2 mysterious men show up. What she doesn't know is one of them is the prince she was supposed to marry, and the other is an assassin who was sent to kill her. And this is supposed to be really cool and a really big mind blower. Like, I guess you go back and forth, you can't figure out who is who, and when you do find out, it just like, but I think I know how this goes. I do. Oh, you can quote me on this. I think what happens is everything is cray-cray, as usual, when all of a sudden, the assassin falls in love with her, and the prince kills her.
Let the bodies hit the...
Okay, so yeah, this is the first book in a series, so that's probably not going to happen, but that'd be interesting. I want to read that. And finally, the last book I got on my Amazon haul is The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutkowski. I've read this already. It's freaking amazing. I loved it. It's about a girl named Kestrel. She lives in a militaristic society that is kind of reminiscent of ancient Rome, wherein they travel the world conquering nations and enslaving their people. And she is the daughter of one of the most renowned generals. He single-handedly conquered the nation that she's living in. And when she turns 20, she's expected to either marry someone of high standing or join the military like her father. The only problem is she doesn't want to do either of those things. She doesn't like killing, and she doesn't want to get married. All she wants to do is focus on her music. She loves to play the piano, and that's all she wants out of life. And one day she stumbles into a slave sale on accident, and the auctioneer announces that the slave that's on the auction block can sing. So on a whim, she buys him. It starts off this huge chain of events that changes her world forever. And this is such a great book. Freaking read it. So these are the books I got off Amazon, and I'm pretty stoked because I read this one and I loved it, and these 2 should be just as awesome. As I'm sure most people have noticed, for some reason when you order online, it doesn't get there fast enough. Like, I feel like as soon as I click the pay button and I have submitted my information, ding dong, I should get a freaking knock on my door and the book should be there, but for some reason that doesn't happen. So obviously, since I just placed those 2 orders within 5 minutes of each other, and they didn't immediately show up, I had no option. I had to go to Barnes & Noble. Luckily, I had a gift card, so my moment of complete irresponsibility and joy is perfectly legally alright and probably not that immoral. The first book I picked up was Scorched by Mari Mancusi. I remember reading a book by her. It was called Boys That Bite, I believe. And it was back during my vampire-obsessed craze, right around the time that Twilight came out, and I was reading the Morganville Vampires books by Rachel Kane. And so I remember it was a solid read. So I decided to pick this one up because it sounds interesting and it's about dragons, and I haven't read a good dragon book in quite a while. It basically follows a girl named Trinity who has a weird grandpa. He basically brings her back this rock one day, and he's like, oh, this is a dragon egg, and she's like, whatever, grandpa. But then these two boys, their brothers, show up out of the friggin' future. And the first one is like, look, if you do not destroy this dragon egg before it hatches, the world will end. The other one's like, hey, if you destroy this dragon egg before it hatches, the world will end. You have to save this dragon, you have to raise it. And so she's kind of stuck between, like, who does she trust? What does she do? I don't know. I'm assuming she lets the dragon live, since this is the first book in the series, and if she kills the dragon, like, what's this series going to be about? I don't know. That'd be a pretty lame series. Or maybe it wouldn't be. I don't know. I haven't read this book. The next book I got was The Killing Woods by Lucy Christopher. I've heard so many great things about her book Stolen, so I decided to pick this one up, especially since it sounds so freaking good. It's about a girl named Emily, and her dad is a soldier with PTSD. One day, one of Emily's classmates named Ashley goes missing, and there's this huge manhunt. They can't find her. When they finally do find her, it's because Emily's dad comes stumbling out of the woods carrying her dead body, and all he says is gone, and then he stops talking. So according to everybody, they're just happy saying, okay, he killed her, he's guilty. But Emily doesn't believe that for a second, so she basically launches her own investigation to find out what really happened to Ashley and to try to clear her dad's name. The next book I picked up is Brandon Sanderson's Stillheart. Everybody's heard of this book by now, but I still haven't read a Brandon Sanderson book, so maybe this will be my first. It's about a world, like a futuristic, maybe dystopian, in which certain people develop superpowers, but instead of becoming superheroes, they became these dictator supervillain things. And the main character of this book is out to kill the strongest of them all, and his name is Stillheart, because Stillheart killed his family. But everybody's telling him it's impossible, but he knows something that these other people don't. And what he knows is that he has seen Stillheart bleed, so he might have a chance to defeat him and avenge his family. The final book I got on my little merry trip to Barnes & Noble is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm sure this is another one everybody's heard of. It's about a girl named Selena who was basically a criminal who was sentenced to a death camp. She's been living there for a couple of years, which is already a lot longer than was expected for her to survive there, when she gets message from the king of a possible reprieve. She's basically told, I need you, if you come and compete in a competition and win, not only will you be kind of like granted clemency for your crimes and brought out of that death camp permanently, but you can be my personal assassin. So, assumably, she complies and she agrees, and then shit gets cray. Because that's how books go. You know, something happens, and then something else happens, and then shit gets cray. It's how to write a book, guys. Shit gets cray. So these are the books I got at Barnes & Noble. And finally, as always seems to happen, for some reason, as soon as you place a book outlet order and it starts going through, they all of a sudden get new books, and they're also awesome books, and you have no choice but to get them because this is America. Or maybe you're in Canada. Or the Middle East. I don't know where you are. Sorry. So obviously, I had no option but to place another order. It was important. It was muy importante. So the first book I picked up on my secondary book outlet binge is Lux Opposition by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It is the final book, and it's also in the matching covers by Entangled Teen. It's the final book, like I said, in the Lux series, once again by Jennifer L. Armentrout, as I've said probably a bazillion times by now. And I don't know what it's about because I haven't read the synopsis because I don't want to freaking spoil myself. But I'm pretty excited to read it. I'm hoping it's good, and we'll see. The next book I picked up is All My Patients Kick and Bite by Jeff Wells, DVM, and yes, DVM stands for Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. I'm assuming it's kind of like anecdotal stories of his time as a veterinarian, and it's got some cool pictures in here, like there's this dog salivating over a baby. That's a llama that looks kind of like a giant. And there's Babe the Ox. I didn't know he was Paul Bunyan's veterinarian, but there you have it. And the final book I got from my secondary book outlet, Fiasco, was Poison Princess by Cressley Cole, the first book in the Arcana Chronicles. It's about a girl named Evie who starts having these like horrible apocalyptic visions and nightmares and stuff. Her visions start to come true. So she ends up teaming up with this guy she hates named Jack DeVoe, I think. I don't know. But she teams up with him, and I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're teamed up and they're doing something as the world ends, so that could be interesting or disastrous. We'll find out, won't we? Yes, here's my cray-cray little group of things from Book Outlet Round 2. And finally, this one's going to come with a little bit of a rant. I went to Barnes & Noble again, because as I told you already, I already read The Winter's Curse by Marie Rutkowski, and I freaking loved it. So obviously, since March 3rd was the release date for the sequel, Winter's Crime, I had to go pick it up. And I had two options. I could either go to Amazon or I could get it at Barnes & Noble, and I try to support my local bookstores as much as possible. So I went to Barnes & Noble. The only problem is, Barnes & Noble hadn't received any copies yet when I went in there on release day. So I gave them my information, and they said they'd call me, and they called me, and I went in, and I paid $500 million for it. And I get home with this beauty, Winter's Crime, I'm so stoked, and it's damaged. As you can see right there, it's all like dented in. And I didn't see it until I got home, and it's not like a major big deal, but I'm kind of a book snob, so I don't like books that aren't in pristine condition, especially if I pay full price for them. Like, if I got it for a quarter at a yard sale or for a couple bucks at Book Outlet, it's okay, but I spent like all the money I've ever had in my life. This cost $500 million, and by that I mean 20. But I'm really disappointed. Like, I could have gotten it for half the price from Amazon on time with no damage. So once again, these are my books this month. Hey! All you had to do was stay. Ta-da!
Baby, you a song that make me wanna roll my windows down and cruise.
This is my accumulation of junk I've gotten this month. Books aren't junk, they're treasure. Stay. I've been loving you for quite some time.